that the first priority of any government is to protect its citizens. And that's why we are working so incredibly hard to bring back those two Michaels who've been arbitrarily detained for political reasons, as Beijing continues to suggest, and that's wrong. But at the same time, our responsibility is to make sure that we're also protecting Canadians into the future. And if countries around the world, including China, realize that by arbitrarily arresting random Canadians, they can get what they want out of Canada politically, well, that makes an awful lot more Canadians who travel around the world vulnerable to that kind of pressure. So we will continue to stand for our strong, independent justice system. We will do everything we can to bring home the two Michaels, and we will continue to do everything we need to do to make sure that all Canadians are protected going forward. I respect the distinguished Canadians who put forward that letter, but I deeply disagree with them. The idea of solving a short-term situation by creating a precedent that demonstrates to China that all they or another country has to do is randomly arrest a handful of Canadians to put political pressure on a government to do what we want, even by going against the independence of our justice system, would endanger the millions of Canadians who live and travel overseas every single year. We cannot allow political pressures or random arrests of Canadian citizens to influence the functioning of our justice system. So I respect these individuals, but they're wrong in their approach. We are in a situation where, first and foremost, the priority of any Canadian government needs to be to keep Canadians safe, which is why we're working incredibly hard to bring home those two Michaels who have been arbitrarily detained. China itself has admitted that there is a direct link between the detention of Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor and the arrest in an extradition process of Meng Wanzhou. We have an independent justice system that is going through its process. And yes, there is, and has been from the very beginning, a element of that involves input from the Justice Minister at the appropriate time. However, the bigger question is whether or not we want China or other countries to get the message that all they have to do to get leverage over the Canadian government is randomly arrest a couple of Canadians. That not only puts Canadians in difficulty now, but puts them in difficulty and in danger in the coming years. We need to continue to be absolutely crystal clear that Canada has an independent judiciary, and those processes will unfold independently of any political pressure, including by foreign governments. We deplore what China did in arbitrarily detaining the two Michaels, in directly linking those arrests, which came a few days after the arrest on an extradition treaty of Meng Wanzhou, to each other. And we will continue to remain steadfast and strong and say very clearly in our actions and in our words that randomly arresting Canadians doesn't give you leverage over the government of Canada anywhere in the world. I have met with a number of family members, and I feel deeply for not just the two Michaels who are in a very difficult situation, but their families who have endured a year and a half of difficulties with this arbitrary detention by Chinese authorities. But it is not just the two Michaels who are at question here. It is every Canadian who travels to China or anywhere else overseas. If the Chinese government concludes from this exchange and this interaction that it is an effective way to gain leverage over Canadians and over the Canadian government to randomly arrest Canadians, then no Canadian will be safe going forward. So I understand the difficulty and the heart-wrenching ordeal that these two Michaels are going through right now. But always, I need to focus on, and our government needs to focus on, what is going to keep Canadians safe into the future. And to demonstrate to China they can just arrest Canadians and get what they want out of Canada, even for us going against the independence of our judicial system, would be absolutely unacceptable. On the contrary, we continue to engage substantially around the world and with China on many different issues. But it is certain that this issue of China trying to exert political pressure on Canada by having arbitrarily detained 2 Canadians in response to us fulfilling obligations under an international extradition treaty is causing a challenge in our relationship. We need to demonstrate that we have an independent judiciary, and we will continue to respect that independent judiciary regardless of the pressure put on us by foreign governments. And that's why, even as we do everything we can to bring those Michaels home, we will not give in to these political pressures and compromise the independence of our judiciary or allow others to conclude